Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Xtreme Motorsports INDYCAR Championship Series. This is round number 5 of this season, coming to you tonight from Barber Motorsports Park. My name is Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Adam Thomsen. Joshua Wilkie is our producer for tonight's broadcast, using cameras provided by Whiplash SimCams. We're kicking off the second half of the season tonight here at one of the newer tracks in the world of American auto racing. Barber Motorsports Park opened back in 2003, but since then it's hosted IndyCar races, sports car races, and also has a fantastic museum and some rather interesting artwork that litters this place as well. Adam, we were talking a little bit about this facility. You've been to it. I unfortunately have not, but this track, even in the sim, is just an absolutely wonderful drive.
Oh, it's a beautiful track based in just right outside of Birmingham, Alabama. If you've never been to this track, it is a must-go see this place. They have the Barbershop Vintage Museum there right next to the track. And if you're a motorsports fan like me, you're going to go in there and you have 5 beautiful floors of motorcycles and different types of race cars. They have a Lotus exhibit there with Lotus old F1 cars and Indy cars. You can see Mario Andretti's old STE car there. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. As the commentators actually say on the INDYCAR Series, it reminds, as Will Buxton would say, it reminds them of Spa and some of the famous F1 tracks around the world. And to be honest, it does. It's actually quite flowy, as we would call that. As we're looking at some drivers in qualifying here, you can just see just the contours of this track. Definitely not anything. It's a challenging track, but it's very flow. Once you get that flow down like in a rally car, we're going to have no problems here as we are watching. Who are we watching here? Stephen Hudek going through here. Here, Ron, and it looks like Joshua Chinsky is on a fast lap as well.
And already 2.5 minutes into this 20-minute long qualifying session. It's an open session, so these drivers have to share the racetrack with each other and have to try and manage this session as well as you can when it comes to the tires as well. You can see those red sidewall alternate tires currently on these race cars, trying to set some barn burners of lap times here at this track. But considering how tight and twisty technical elevation as well, it will chew these tires and spit them out with about as much frustration and anger as you could possibly get. It's tough around here, and these drivers will certainly be feeling the burn in this race that we have coming up. 52 laps long for this race here this evening, and I think that we are in for a good one here tonight. Got 6 drivers currently running out here, so not the greatest turnout in the world, but nonetheless still looking to have a good race here and to have some fun, you know. Quality over quantity and all that schmozzle. Stephen Hudek jumping up to the provisional pole to 107.392 per good lap time from the driver of the number 44 car. He had a pretty standout performance last time out at Long Beach, grabbing his first win of the season after some chicanery in the early stages. He was able to pick up the pieces and run away with a victory there at Long Beach. But here on the East Coast, he may have a bit more of a challenge on his hands, and Josh Chinsky returning to the series after taking a week off. He is currently slotted P2, not terribly far back to do that either.
No, only a couple of tenths separating them. And actually, we're going through one of the fastest parts of the circuit of Barber Motorsports Park on board with Stephen Hudek as Dave Medina goes quick time with a 107.179. What is one of the interesting things, if you've never been to Alabama, if you've never been in the Birmingham area, you have all this foresty area. It's quite the nice, beautiful environment. So I would definitely recommend, again, this is a place, if you've never been to it, I highly recommend going to it. It's an absolute pleasant area to be in. Great scenery. Of course, me being in the Black Hills, I have beautiful scenery, and I say it very well compares to that as Joshua Chinsky goes hard into the wall on his qualifying lap.
That was coming out of the 10 and 11 chicane, loses on corner exit and hits that inside wall. I remember one time wrecking an F3 car coming out of that exact same section. I think I flipped it about 5 or 6 times. You hit some of those walls on the inside, you take a wild ride until you finally grind to a halt, probably about 1,500 feet away from where you first impacted the wall. Very tough to have a moment like that there, especially on lap 1. If you bounce back into harm's way, that is a super tough moment for pretty much the entirety of the field. Would have a big accident heading off through there if these drivers just don't try and be careful. Menino, though, jumping up to the top at a 1:07.179. He's been pretty quick up to this point in the season. Grabbed his second pole position last time at Long Beach, dueling that with his pole position at Portland for race number 1 of this championship. Menino, that 3-car, has been a very quick and consistent driver all throughout this point. The only real weak spot he's had was Long Beach last time out, where he got involved in some drama, kind of made a mistake all on his own, and then since then, didn't really go well for him in that race. So looking for a bit of a rebound here at Barber, and a pole position would be a great way to go about that.
Of course, some famous moments here at Barber Motorsport Park. If you remember from last season, American Georgina falling on the racetrack. If you've ever been there, you know where Georgina's at. And luckily, Scott McLaughlin was able to get the win that day and celebrate the win with Georgina and get her all fixed up and back up there. And she is hanging back up there now. Didn't have any issues this past year in INDYCAR at Barber. But they also have a gorilla that's also posted up on a post on the bridges. And unfortunately, iRacing actually rendered her into the game, which I'm very disappointed about that, Ron. I think that would have added just a little bit to this track if they had Georgina and the gorilla that is there on the straightaway under the bridge.
See, I'm a little bit disappointed they didn't do that, but they did render in the spider, which, from my perspective, is not a very good thing. There are 2 insects that I fear more than anything, and it is spiders and yellow jackets. The spiders, not sure why, I think they've always just creeped me out. Yellow jackets, here's a good childhood story from me. One time back when I was, I think I was either 6 or 7 years old, slammed the gate going into the backyard of my house and rattled a yellow jacket's nest that was underneath the ground, and then I got pelted by probably about 100 of them. So ever since then, have not really been too fond of yellow jackets. So happy of the 2 that there's a spider around here instead of a yellow jacket. See, a spider can be friendly. You got a spider on Boris. Boris the spider there on the outside of turn 5, the hairpin around this track. I'm happy that we have that instead of a yellow jacket around here, because if we saw a yellow jacket, I'd probably get sent more or less into fight or flight like I was many moons ago.
Well, we're getting to almost halfway through qualifying. 8 minutes in. Dave Menino, your quick time with a 1:06.88. Stephen Hudek trying to also find that time as Joshua Chinsky goes for a little bit of a lawn mowing expedition. Pulls back into the pits. Caleb Lehman, currently somebody who hasn't had the best results, but definitely is fast on the road courses as we have seen in the past. But Dave Menino is the one I would say to beat here, Ron, is on a road course, especially something like this. That's a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a tire-saving race. And Dave Menino has shown us in the past, especially at Portland and at the Indianapolis road course, that, you know, he can save his tires and he can win races that way.
And having that sort of skill set whereby you can manage everything that gets thrown your way in these races, well, it's part of the reason why Dave Menino has done so well up to this point in the season, from managing tires, keeping a calm, cool, and collected head on his shoulders, and being able to tackle this racetrack and have the mental fortitude to go about it for well over an hour, which is how these races usually run. 52 laps at Barber. That's a rather demanding trip here in the sim. That's nearly as long as the IndyCar races are in real life here. So it's tough for these drivers, but I have a feeling they're going to try and manage it as well as they possibly can. About halfway through this qualifying session now, in fact, coming up to that halfway mark in about 7 seconds time. Dave Mano still quickest. Hudek, Chinsky, Lehman, Hosea, and Neil Weston round out your field as it stands at the present moment. But I think as we are still rather early on into this qualifying session, may want to take a look at the championship point situations coming into this round of the championship. Are now officially into the second half of this 8-round season, so starting to think about who may be able to get it done in those point standings. And as you can see, with that performance last time out from Hudek and the disappointing one from Menino, it has tied it up in that championship. 139 points on the board for the both of them. It's going to be winner take all coming into this race. Obviously 3 more left to go after this, but Menino looking to bounce back after skipping out on the Indy race and not doing too well in the Long Beach race after that. Sophia Connell's 9 points back of those top two. Sophia not making her appearance here this week, so that gap will probably grow when it comes to those championship points. Same could be said for the likes of Jake Vasconcelos and Eduardo Lorente. Charlie Hosea, he is currently slotted in P6 on an even 100 points. Bailey Pietrowski, who I would love to see a bit more often in this series, have some experience with him in some of the other XMS series. Very quick driver when it comes to the world of sports cars. Flexed some muscles earlier on when it came to the ovals, but has not made his appearance here this week, which I think is a bit of a shame. And you can see Josh Shinsky, series admin wide, Franklin and Caleb Lehman round out your top 10 in the points coming into this 5th round of the season. That's how it looks like when it comes to the drivers' championships, and we'll try and get those teams' championship points loaded up for you here in right about now, as SRT Esports, they've been quick thus far this season, currently slotted at 319 points. Rockefeller Racing, you can see slotted in 3rd. Privateer, those are all the Privateer entrants, currently slotted in 2nd. Rockefeller Racing, as I said a few moments ago, right in front of the lone Taylor Mills racing car, Sophia Connell, 8 points. The gap between those two teams right there. Orion Race Team, D2D Sim Racing, HTPK Racing in 7th, May Forest, Big Fast, Fury Sim Sports, HSR Phantom Racing, and Gravala Racing round out your top 12. And your entirety of the field when it comes to the team's point standings heading into this round of the championship. Pretty close there at the front. I say pretty close. It's a dead heat between Dave Menino and Steven Hudek. As it stands presently, they are nearly tied when it comes to qualifying times. That is basically nothing between those two.
Yeah, pretty much nothing at this point for Steven Hudek and Dave Menino. If Hudek can just find the time, and on a circuit like this, yes, there is a lot of time to gain, but when you're that close, it's having to analyze every little bit. Where did you make a slight mistake? Where can you improve just by that much? And sometimes on a course like this, you have to just improve in multiple different spots, in multiple different corners, because it is high speed. You don't have a lot of braking zones, so you can't make up the time in just heavy braking. You have to make up the time on places like where we're heading up to now as we're on board here with Caleb Lehman. You know, you can't gain time through there, but this upcoming corner here, you know, can you lift a little bit later? Can you get through that corner more smoothly? Here we go into the penultimate corners and about to go down the front straightaway. Can you improve there? Those are the intense corners, I would say, on Barber. It's just, you got high speed corners, you don't have a lot of braking, but can you find the extra time through there? And that's going to be a challenge, I think, for Steven Hudek to try and get out in front of Dave Menino and start on the pole. A little bit of lap traffic here for Caleb Lehman as he will just navigate on by. No problems there. This is one of the heavy braking zones, but again, they're not a plenty as some road courses are run, and I think we're going to be seeing some interesting strategies. This is, of course, where you go down the hill and you'll head right in front of the museum. There's the Barber Motorsports Park Vintage Museum, and from this point forward, if you have not improved time, it's going to be very, very difficult to get a better lap time than what you have.
Yeah, you brought up a fantastic point. The corners around this racetrack, you hear this a lot when it comes to like this past weekend for like Monaco qualifying, for instance. There's no such thing as a perfect lap around Monaco. There's no real such thing as a perfect lap here at Barber. There is always a little bit that you can do to get a little bit of time, and that's part of the reason why these drivers will always try and push the limit. You can see Caleb Lehman taking to the runoff area after missing the apex through turn number 1. It's little stuff like that. It may not seem like too much from our perspective here in the commentary booth, but hey, couple of inches farther out, you can see yet again from Neil Weston heading down into turn number 1, missing that apex a little bit. That downhill turn, very easy to miss it there, and I see that a lot here. Let's see if we go 3 for 3 with the 100. No, he clips that curb a little bit too well, and he overshoots it. Different end of the spectrum, but still proves a point that every single corner around this track is super tough to manage. Even the slow ones we just saw there from Josh Shinsky in the number 18 car, heading his way out through the 7, 8, and 9 section. That downhill chicane leading off into the hairpin to turn 9. Really important to get a good run out of there, because you have outside of the turn 10 and 11 chicane pretty much flat out all the way up until you head into 12 and 13. Super tough section of the track to try and get right. The amount of incidents that happened there, both in the sim and in real life through 7, 8, and 9, would truly beg your belief. May not seem like too much on paper, but with the elevation change and everything, that is super tough to try and nail down. And Shinsky nailing down a flyer. Look at that, a 106.7, and that's a pretty big jump up to the pole.
That was an awesome lap. 2 purple sectors, 2 personal best sectors, and he gets the pole position by just over a 1/10 of a second. And that means we're going to see Dave Menino definitely come back out again. And we're also probably going to see Hudek as well get back out there and try and get a bit better lap time. So we have a qualifying shootout here as Dave Menino is in the car, ready to go. Just needs to probably adjust a couple of things, and he is going to be back out there. Steven Hudek is out on track on an out lap. And you can see on the bottom of your screen, you can track where those sectors are and if they're improving or not improving. So, Caleb Leland, not improving. He will probably abort this lap because time is running out. We're at 17 minutes. It's about just over a minute and a half to get around on an out lap. So you got to plan for that. You know, Caleb Leland does improve a little bit more in Sector 3, so he will continue this lap, but I'm surprised he hasn't pulled in terms of the sector times and what they're looking at. So he is not really improving. And Caleb Lehman will come across the line, not going to be there. Steven Hudek goes with a purple sector 3. And he is flying, but he goes off the track. That may have cost him right there. He was faster in sector 3 by 0.060. And he will come across the line, but I don't think this lap is going to count. What does he do? Doesn't improve his time. So we'll keep an eye on him. He may be going for another push lap as time will expire. He will only have time for 1 or 2 more, Ron, and he's going to have to really put pedal to the metal if he wants to get that pole position or get ahead of Dave Menino as he is out there on track. He's got a purple sector 2. Excuse me, this is his out lap, so he is going to be the last one to probably cross the line if we had to guess. And potentially steal pole away here from Joshua Chinsky. This is where the going gets tough, I would say, is at this point in qualifying. There is a lot of grip on the track. The track definitely in a nice warm state. What is the temperature right now?
116 degrees Fahrenheit is that track temperature. 81 Fahrenheit. That is rather warm for this track. So I think these tires definitely got to be feeling the burn. And we talked about the challenges that you're going to face if you are a set of Firestones on these race cars. Pretty much everyone running this qualifying session with the alternates, but I feel like the primaries may end up being a tire that drivers look for just because the alternate fall-off is probably going to be immense here tonight. Got a lot of turns, a lot of elevation change, a high track temperature, so it's basically going to be as if you got a flamethrower to these tires and just ran them around the track for an extended period of time. One driver, though, who's looking to have a good showing is Dave Menino. pretty good in the first sector, pretty all right in the second sector, looking good again in sector 3. Dave Menino may be in with a good shot of grabbing the pole. Nobody is out there on the racetrack, so if Menino can have the last say and set in a good time, this is going to be his for the taking. With the time running out of Menino going on to the start-finish straightaway, he comes to the line, and is it the pole from Dave Menino?
No.
It's not. Lost it
a
in
couple
sector
of tenths.
4.
Yeah, lost a couple of tenths in sector 4, which you would have thought maybe would have offset, those 2 really good sectors, 3 really good sectors. No, he did not improve by 20 seconds in sector 1. That would have been an ultra quick lap time if that was the case.
On the hyperjets.
Yeah, that hybrid energy really kicking in now. But no, he did not improve by 20 seconds, but an unfortunate error there at the end of the lap gave him a 1:08. So he is going to have to go back out there. 1:08.10 was Dave Menino. He is not going to go out for another quality time. Checkered flag is out. And I don't even think he's improving at all here. I don't think he is. Those tires are gone. Maybe he is. He improves again in sector 3. Can he get the job done across the line? He goes to pole. 106.8687. Wow, what a lap time.
And that right there is exactly why I would always want to have the last word. No one can defend what you do. You just go out there, set a barn burner of a lap time, and then all anyone can do is just look at the back of your car in wonder and look at the time charts in glee. But that is qualifying here at Barber. Dave Menino with a 3rd pole position. We're going to cut to a commercial break, and we may be able to have a chat with our pole sitter.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name-brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
The SCCA Foundation is a 501c3 organization serving as the charitable arm of the Sports Car Club of America. One of the programs partially funded by the foundation is the SCCA Academy, an online learning management system used to keep real-life racing track officials up to date on the highest standards of race safety and officiating. Through this program, the SCCA Foundation is supporting the future of the best trained corner workers and event officials in motorsport. You can support these efforts at www.sccafoundation.org. The search is over. The most comprehensive league scoring solution is here, with the ability for multi-level championships, custom incident tracking, post-race time penalties, support for heats, drop weeks display, multi-car team scoring, advanced web widgets, rookie championships, a custom paint system, and load those results in seconds. Visit extremescoring.info today.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
And welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting for the XMS ICS Series. Adam Thomsen here. Along with me is Dave Menino, our pole sitter. Dave, that final lap was sure something.
Yeah, no, pretty much nailed nearly every corner. Really pleased with that.
Well, one of the biggest things about this track, there's not a lot of braking zones, so it's hard to find exactly all the time that you need. But on this particular lap here, as we get to the start of this lap, just talk us through each corner of this beautiful Barber Motorsports Park circuit.
Yeah. Going into turn 2 here, you kind of want to do almost a little bit of a double apex. Really prioritize the exit. You got probably the longest straight you're going to deal with on this track. You got this kind of flying crest here. And then you head down into a downhill braking, brake just a little bit past the 2, all the way down into first gear. You want to kind of hug don't really want to touch the curve here, but you want to get pretty close to it. And really want to try and straight line the exit. Don't have any kind of rear heel spin. Then heading into this next corner, brake just before the 1. Really try and take a lot of speed in here. You want to touch this curb on the left-hand side, but you want to avoid the right-hand side curbs and take it down into first gear. And you can kind of get on throttle a lot earlier than you can here, just because the track really opens up for the exit. And then you got this chicane here, which in qualifying is flat out. First couple laps, you fill tires straight, half throttle. And then here, you really want to commit. I kind of just lift it a little bit, touch some of this curb, and you want to get as much of this curb as you can on the right-hand side without bottoming out, so you can really get up right towards the grass. And this final couple corners here, you want to, a lot of different ways you can take this. I think it's quicker to kind of be about midway through the track, and then you can really take advantage of that last corner and go out as far as you can. But the blast track trying to get good.
Well, you're on pole again on a road course. These road course poles and these road course wins are definitely helping you in the championship. What's the plan for tonight?
Yeah, hopefully just more of the same. Hopefully we can hold on to the lead this time. And yeah, I mean, I kind of got to book a lot of these road course wins while I can before the ovals hit. I'm way less comfortable on the ovals, so got to make hay while the sun's shining.
Well, congratulations on the pole position and good luck tonight.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And that right there was our pole man, Dave Manino. Nice to be able to have a chat with him and have him talk us through that lap, which, even though it's a somewhat long track compared to some of the other ones that we'll be running at, especially when it comes to the ovals, but man, it is such a hectic ride here at Barber. Really no point of reprieve for these drivers. You're always battling something, whether it be a turn, whether it be the elevation change, whether it be your competitors. It's still going to be a rough ride for these racers tonight. But hey, very happy that we're, from our perspective here in the commentary booth, won't have to worry about the same levels of stress that these drivers will in this 52 lap long race in front of us. But with that being said, let's take a look at the starting grid. It'll be Dave Menino on the pole. Josh Shinsky will join him on the front row. Stephen Hudak will start in third. Caleb Lehman will start in fourth. Charlie Hosea will start in fifth. Next to Neil Weston, rounding out your 6 cars, fittingly in the number 6 car. So those are your 6 cars set to grab the green here in the not too far off future. That fight, though, between Dave Menino and Stephen Hudak going to be intense. Those two going to be starting nose to tail on the inside down into the always troubling turn number 1. I mean, based off some of the stuff that's happened in IndyCar here in real life over the years, turn 1 at Barber is probably one of the most treacherous turn 1s in all of American motorsports, especially on lap 1.
Oh, it can be just because of the weird angle it takes. It's actually kind of like Sonoma's turn 1 a little bit. You have to just really angle yourself, got to get to the outside line. If you're stuck on that inside line going into turn 1, it can really be a little bit of a detrimental, because that, for the setup for turn 2, the person on your inside can actually get the advantage going through turn number 2. So it's going to be kind of interesting. Everybody's going to be fighting for that outside position down into the front straight, just so they can angle themselves and get set up for turn 2. So we're going to be in for one wild opening lap. Of course, SRT Esports currently out in front in the championship, and they got 3 cars on tonight's grid. So they're feeling pretty confident here tonight that they're going to get a win.
Yeah, I think if you're SRT Esports, having 3 of your cars start right at the north end of the field, you got to feel good about your chances. Stephen Hudak, though, he's got to feel like it's pretty much just him against the rest of the world, because, I mean, wow. What do you think if you're Stephen Hudak involved in that championship battle with yourself and Dave Menino, thinking, okay, how's this all going to work out? I won last time out, but outside of that, didn't really have the best start to the season that I probably could have compared to Menino. It's a game of momentum, doubly so in a series as short as this. Only 8 races, 8 weeks of action here from season number 1 of the Xtreme Scoring IndyCar Championship Series here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Stephen Hudek, he's got to be feeling the burn, thinking, okay, how do I attack this championship battle? It's really going to be a 2-horse race, considering Sophia Connell's not racing with us this week, unless we have another afternoon. Dave Menino or Stephen Hudek. It looks like it will be a 2-car championship battle right towards the end of this season. Good opportunity to get some points here as well. And as you raised there, talking about the rest of the season that we've got here from the season, it's if you're a driver who feels good on the road courses, this is the time to pounce. Looking through the remaining 3 races we have after this one, they'll be running on at Auto Club Speedway in 1 week's time, then the Daytona road course, and then Gateway, the short track, to bring this season to a close. So really, if you don't feel good about the ovals, it's time to get some good points on the road courses. And for Dave Menino in the 3-car, that's probably what he has on his agenda here at Barber Motorsports Park tonight. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. Pretty good start from him. He's going to slip right in front of his teammates, heading down into turn number 1. Looks like we're not going to see any drivers really go for some gutsy moves as they head their way off through the opening sector.
Well, you can see those primary tires on Dave Menino. He's going on a different strategy than everybody else, but his teammates behind him on the red-walled alternate tire as they fall down into turns 5 and 6. Now down a long straightaway. Push to pass going to become a factor here on this track just because of the long straightaways that you do get. And of course, the SRT teammate of Caleb Lehman has fallen back down to 4th with Stephen Hudek bumping himself up into P3. Now they go in front of the museum. Again, very difficult corners coming up. You're not going to make a pass through here, but if you are Joshua Chinsky, you are going to be trying everything you go. Here comes Joshua Chinsky. He goes down the inside. No, backs out of the middle.
Yeah, I think Josh Shinsky at this point in time realizes that, hey, if I'm going to go for a move on my teammate, even though he's on primary tires, he's just going to get back at me here in the not too far off future. Very similar to what we saw at Long Beach last time out. Menino starting on those primary tires and didn't work out well for him at all at the very beginning of that Long Beach race 1 week ago. So I think Dave Menino looking to have a better start here and try not to drop down like a rock. Plus, considering the fact that Josh Shinsky is his teammate, maybe not going to see him pounce too hard. It's good for the team championship. It's good for the driver championship. That doesn't mean he's going to try and look for it down into turn number 5. That's Menino tripping up a little bit through the braking zone, and through goes Shinsky into the race lead.
Just got a little bit of understeer, slid out wide, and that allows Joshua Chinsky to go through, who was looking for that pole position in qualifying, but didn't quite get it done. But now those red sidewall alternate tires are a factor. If you're on the primary tire, you are going to be significantly slower, especially on a road course like this with the high-speed corner. But they are going to just wear so much faster than any other tire on the surface. You can see now, you see Stephen Hudek. He got a little bit closer. He has a lot more grip on those red-walled alternate tires. Now down the front straight to complete lap number 2. And right now, your race leader is Joshua Chinsky heading into turn number 2.
And now we're going to see Chinsky try and pull away while he has that tire advantage. Last time by nearly a second quicker than his teammate Menino as he's fallen into the crutches of Stephen Hudek. If Menino trips up yet again, he may find himself not only falling out of a podium spot, but maybe even falling a little bit farther than that. Charlie Hosea in the 100 car is not terribly far behind Caleb Lehman in the 42. There you can see Hosea and the number 100 Rockefeller Racing car down into turn number 7, 8, and 9. So if you're Hosea, you're maybe thinking, okay, if I just play the patient game and catch up to him, who knows, I may be able to jump my way up a little bit. Dave Menino, though, you got to be terrified if you're his perspective. Not using a push to pass as we usually see from Dave Menino. He's playing the calm, cool, patient, and collected game. He's waiting for this race to fall into his lap. But at the same time, with that sort of patient mindset, you also get the yang of getting jumped by your rivals.
Well, and you just see some of those cameras brought to you by Whiplash cameras or Whiplash, and those are some amazing shots that we're seeing through some of the corners here at Barber Motorsports Park. You can definitely see now Stephen Hudek getting closer, 4/10 behind. If I was him, I would maybe think about using some of that push to pass, especially if I want to get the jump on the position here and get a little bit more clean air. Almost drives into the back of Dave Menino. Hudek has to get on the brakes a little bit harder than I think he anticipated. Almost caused a huge accident there. But Stephen Hudek right now looking like he is just toying with his meal as he wants to try and get that second spot away. Now again, you can see the intervals on your screen here. Joshua Chinsky almost 2 seconds ahead of Dave Menino, and that is an absolute crushing blow to Dave Menino right now, as Joshua Chinsky is just absolutely flying quickly here. Let's take a look at the pass for the lead. Dave Menino, it looks like he actually just got a little bit scared. I think he thought Chinsky was a lot more alongside of him and backed out of the corner pretty much, and that allowed Chinsky through.
Yeah, and Chinsky still taking advantage of that tire upper hand that he's got right now, setting the fast lap of the race, doubling down on the fast lap that he set a matter of 1 lap ago, now to a 1:08.2. That is a very good lap time from Josh Chinsky at the north end of this field. For context, that's a dive down into turn at number 3. These are the two championship rivals battling, heading off to the hairpin, and that's Hudek getting that moved on the 44 car down the inside into the hairpin at turn number 5. My apologies. Turn 3 was a little bit farther beforehand, but it was the exit coming out of there that allowed Hudek to try and go for that send, using a little bit of push to pass he did, but either way, Menino dropping down to 3rd. This is not the start that the championship leader had in mind, but for the driver who's tied with him in the points, that was a pretty good overtake.
It really was. You can see Stephen Hudek got a great exit on those alternate tires, and now he is going to be in clean air and can drive away from Dave Menino. Dave Menino is struggling on those primary tires. Now, the question is, when we do switch over to the alternate tires for Dave Menino, how much faster is he going to be? And if I'm him, I'm going to run these primaries quite a long way, because you could probably make this a one-stopper if you're conservative enough, but it's going to definitely be a lot more of a challenge to try and catch these guys on the alternate tires and try and run an undercut strategy.
Yeah, when we get that strategy game into this race, it's so vital for this race to set yourself up well in the opening stint. If you start off on a bad mark, it's just going to snowball out of control from there. As we take a look at another replay of that move from Hudek, it was simple but elegant down into turn at number 5. Nothing flashy, nothing major, but all that significant gap for himself and Menino is now as well already up to 1.3 seconds. So Hudek, again, with those two drivers tied in the points, important for them to get off to a good start. Menino, probably not the start that he had in mind, but again, he will be the one who already has his primary tires out of the way, taken care of, doesn't have to worry about it. He can hit the ground running. Whether or not he's going to pull up a 1-stop or a 2-stop in this race remains to be determined. But as it stands presently, he's got the slow tires on that race car, the black sidewall primaries. He doesn't have to worry about putting on any more tires of the same nature. He can put on those red sidewalled stickies, and he'll be good all the way to the checkered flag. The real question is, though, can Dave Menino stop this proverbial bleeding before he gets into a spot where there's no point in return?
Well, that's going to create a little bit of issues. It's starting to bleed even more. Of course, it just started as a scratch, and now it's a wide open cut at this point. And now Caleb Lehman, he senses an opportunity, uses a little bit of that push to pass to get just under a half a second to Dave Menino. And we got to keep our eyes on the 42 machine, because he is absolutely flying here, getting in that dirty air, but also getting a nice draft down the straightaways to keep up with the championship leader.
Heading their way off through the final few corners around this track, and about to tackle the opening sector right now. This, I gotta say, of all the sections here in the sim to run an IndyCar around, this is super, super tough. You've got that massive elevation change, and this giant climb coming out of turn number 3 through the blind kink of turn 4. I've T-boned some drivers coming out of there because you cannot see anything in front of you, and the rear end of these cars super light coming out of there. Thankfully, these cars still on their race fuel load, so a bit heavier on these race cars, but come up to the end of their stints, it will be a bit sketchier heading off through turn number 4. So this brings, as that's running very wide from Dave Menino, I was just going to ask you, Adam, what your most challenging corner around this racetrack would be in your book, but we nearly saw Dave Menino stuffing into the gravel trap coming through turn 9.
Well, it's good. Yeah, turn 9 is definitely the hardest course because you got to slow it down, and it's kind of a quick left-right that's a little bit higher speed. So it's one of those things you make a slight mistake there. I mean, you're going to run really wide. You're going to lose a lot of time through there. So that is definitely one of the corners I would highly recommend. You just absolutely have to be spot on. Right now, Charles Hosea into the pits. He's going to get off those red wall tires, alternate tires, and go to the black primaries for sure here. Very early pit stop, lap number 9. But if you're an alternate runner, that may scare you a little bit. You see Charlie Hosea into the pits here. It'll be a quick change here, get some fuel, black primary tires, and away he goes. A 9.4 second stop in the pit box and a total of 41 seconds. So that tells you a lot right there of how difficult this racetrack is, especially when strategy really comes into play here in the next few laps.
I think there may have been a moment for Neil Weston. I'm getting word on my software that he may have had some sort of moment. So I think Neil Weston may have gotten involved in a bit of drama of himself. He was a little bit farther toward the back, and let's take a look at it. This is heading off, I believe, this is through turn number 12 and 13 right now. Clips of grass on exits, and he kept it out of the barrier there. I mean, granted, he came to a stop and his tires have been turned down to rectangles, but Neil Weston did keep it out of the wall there, whatever value that may have.
Well, I mean, broken nose wing, that can be a little bit of time in the pits, and he is able to get underway. It's just like real life in IndyCar, no cautions. So I saved all that for the Indy 500 on last Sunday. So you can see now Stephen Hudek now within a second of his teammate Joshua Chinsky. This is going to be the battle we got to keep ourselves looking at here. 3.6 seconds back to Dave Menino. Caleb Levin has fallen back to almost a second and back to the push to pass to try and just stay within the draft here. But SRT Esports kind of having an interesting strategy day because they have to be ready to go here. Stephen Hudek right in the slipstream though of Joshua Chinsky. In front of the museum they go here, and this is where it can get I'm a couple corners too early there, but you can see as they come through the final quarter, Stephen Hudek really picking up the pace here, just now 0.6 away to the race leader of Joshua Chinsky, and has 191 seconds of push to pass.
And seeing Chinsky burn a bit more of that push to pass as Hudek is certainly closing in, has that push to pass advantage. About 11 seconds is now the advantage that Hudek has over Chinsky. He's starting to feel the burn as a driver of the number 18 car, and this is a very dangerous spot to be in. Once you feel the pressure and you start to mirror drive a bit around this racetrack, that's when you have a missed braking marker. That's when you go off into the dirt. Those have to think about those incidents as well. But for Chinsky, the one thing that he's got in his mind, he doesn't have to worry about, he's not worrying about strategy at this point. He's worried about one thing and one thing alone, and that is to hold on to the race lead. And that allows Stephen Hudek to jump in front. Obviously, it doesn't matter who you drive for, you want to hold on to the race lead. But this has some extra weight to it as well, considering that Josh Chinsky is a teammate to Dave Menino, and that right behind him, Stephen Hudek is the main championship rival to Dave Menino at this point in the season. So a bit of extra weight when it comes to this defensive maneuver. Let's see if we'll see the number 18 of Chinsky drive the widest IR18 car that's ever been driven here on iRacing, or whether or not Stephen Hudek getting moved on the 44 car will be an inevitability.
Well, we are into the hardest part, I would say, of this race, is keeping those red wall alternate tires going before Dave Menino's primary is really kicking the gear, but now he's 4.2 seconds. Now the battle for the race lead is on as they will go into the most difficult corner, turns 8 and 9 here again. You can see quick left and right, and then through turn 9, just trying to get themselves through that corner. And Stephen Hudek a lot closer this time, less than 0.3 of a second to the race leader, and they do not want to touch at all. Again, high-speed corner. We're missing the action. There they are. And again, you can see the elevation changes, the undulation of this track. That is probably one of the most interesting aspects about Barber Motorsports Park is just the undulation throughout every single corner. One corner you're going to be going like a roller coaster. Another corner is just a nice gradual downhill. It makes it kind of a challenge too, because again, there's no heavy braking zone, so you won't run into lockups going downhill. Going uphill, you're going to have some high-speed corners as well. It just makes it so much more fun to watch on a track like this, racing on a track like this. It's such a great time. And here you go, Joshua Chinsky playing a little bit of defense here, using that push to pass even more, down to 159 seconds, Ron.
Seeing him burn through that much to push to pass, despite the fact we're only about 14.5 minutes into this race, which, as you can see, will stretch as far as 1 hour and 35. We'll probably end before then, but nonetheless, that is not a good amount of push to pass burn to have already in this race for Chinsky. With that comes a bit more tire wear, considering he's going down the straightaways quicker and has to slam on those brakes and head through the turns with a lot more speed. He's also just got that psychological thing. If you have no push to pass involved in a battle right towards the end of this race, you're going to be buried. You're going to be done for. That psychological advantage will be big towards the end of this race. But for now, though, Hudek, he's just running right behind Chinsky. What we're seeing right now, for lack of a better term, is basically like seeing a cat play with a mouse before he eats it. You can see those mistakes starting to pile up with the 18. Bit of a sideways snap coming out of turn number 3. Will he go for the dive down into turn number 5? He's close. Hudek got to look for it midway through the turn as he gets sideways, nearly coming to blows, heading their way out of the turn. Chinsky, he's feeling the burn of the 18. Hudek, he's smelling blood in the water and looking to get a move done. Not close enough, but he's just getting into the head of that number 18 of Chinsky enough for those mistakes to pile up. That was a big one down the fall.
It really was a slight little lockup there by Joshua Chinsky. Almost lost him the lead here as they have been pulling away. But guess who's actually gaining a little bit of time? That's Dave Menino. Now a 3.8 second gap. That was at 1.84 second gap. So it is starting to come down here. If I'm Joshua Chinsky or Stephen Hudek, I'm thinking about pitting, and Joshua Chinsky does exactly what I would have done there. I'm going to pit, get some black primary tires on this car, and get some fresh rubber on track.
Yeah, we can start to see those alternates fade for Chinsky, and now what we're seeing is something I actually heard him trial in practice when I was riding on board with him. You can see him upshifting first second, first second, first second, first second. May seem a little bit stupid and may sound a little bit stupid, but in the process of that, you get a small, and I have to say it is a very small advantage. You can slightly defeat the pit lane speed whenever that happens. I have seen drivers gain tenths of seconds pulling off that strategy. Chinsky spending 8.3 seconds down in his pit stall. Caleb Lehman at 10.1 with Hosea spending 9.3. So the quickest stop we've had up to this point in the race. And in terms of his time down pit lane as well, Chinsky was very, very quick. Even though Hosea spent literally just a tick over a tenth of a second longer in his pit stall, Chinsky spent 38.75 seconds down pit lane compared to Charles Hosea at a 41.23. So may not seem like the smartest idea in the world to do that upshifting strategy, but here in the sim, that can make a huge difference when it comes to those pit lane times. And in a series like this where strategy is so important, making a small little gain like that can be big.
Well, it really can be, especially when you got Dave Menino, who's going to be now officially on used primary tires. Everybody else will be on fresh primary tires, and now the race is on. It's a 23-second gap to Dave Menino, and it's going to be a challenge, I think, a little bit here, just because the pit stops for Dave Menino is not going to come for another probably 10 laps. So, and I would bet he's trying to one-stop this race. In order for him to win, he's probably going to have to one-stop run, and that's going to be a little bit of a challenge when you got guys behind you who are on fresh rubber. So 23-second gap between Joshua Chinsky and Dave Menino. That will give Josh Chinsky back the race lead. And for Stephen Hudek, I'm surprised he hasn't pulled in yet, because he is going to be dropping time. There he goes into the pit lane, and he will go also to the black primary tire. Again, it is a rule in IndyCar that you have to switch tire compounds, so everybody will meet that requirement as Dave Menino will go out to the race lead.
And based off the fact that Menino spent the time down pit lane that he did, I gotta wonder, when will we see Dave Menino make that call to pit? If it were me, I would say we're probably gonna see him stretch that to, let's say, lap 25. That may end up being a good strategy from him. Stretch it that far. I'm not sure if he would be able to do that, but that would just be a nice sort of round number to hit lap 25, lap 26, get to the halfway mark, then just be able to hold the nail all those alternates off the tires between now and the very end of this. We'll note that in all of that, Shinsky has been able to jump out based off the fact that Stephen Hudek spent 13.6 seconds down in his pit box alone. That is the slowest by 3.5 seconds. That is a big mistake from Hudek. And when it comes to that championship discussion as well, if Dave Menino's quick stop, Stephen Hudek will have to try and have some work to do in the second half of this race to get back into a position that he found himself in not terribly long ago and be in discussion to take that championship lead coming into the 6th round in 1 week's time at Auto Club.
Well, you got to be thinking about this. So it's a 23-second between Dave Menino and Joshua Chinsky, and then it's a 5-second gap from Joshua Chinsky to Hudek. It's going to be tight, but Hudek should get out in front of Dave Menino when he pits finally, but he's going to be the last guy to pit. So it's just going to be an interesting couple series of events coming down the stretch here as we're on lap 18 of 52. Josh Chinsky, though, he is comfortable. He knows he's going to get the lead of this race back when Dave Menino pits. It's just a matter of how quick is Dave Menino on those alternate tires.
And as we follow Dave Menino right now, I'm curious, Josh, we could just hold off on this and look at some of the lap times that he has set over the pit from the lap time. You can see those outliers of 11 seconds and 16 seconds quicker. That's obviously through pit lane. You can just see in terms of the lap times that Menino has set since lap 13. 1091, 1091, 1094, 1097, 1093, and this time here on lap 18, a 1092. So Menino he's been consistent as of recent, and looking through the times that he's just set period in this race, he's been brilliantly consistent from the drop of the green flag all the way through to right now, which may not be the flashiest way, but around a track like this where it is so easy to make a mistake, being consistent is good. I remember the old adage that the dad of one of the competitors I used to race against in my karting days always said, Ferrari picked their drivers based off consistency, which is quite interesting considering their pit walls are as consistent as expired mayonnaise. But
Don't remind me.
I will swiftly and abruptly move on for you, but consistency in something like this can be super, super vital. These Indy cars, they're probably high up there in the top 10, top 5, or even the top 3 in terms of cars on iRacing that will put you on your butt quicker than just about anything. And on a track like this as well, here Barber, originally designed for some motorcycles, but the Indy cars can haul the mail here as well. No combination will put you on your butt, questioning every single thing that you've ever done behind the wheel of a race car faster. So if you're Dave Menino, being consistent and not pushing the envelope too much can make a huge difference. A 23-second gap, even if you can't build it to a 25, still a lot better than a 12 with the crash.
Well, you can see the gap starting to slowly close here for Stephen Hudek. He is now down 4.5 seconds away from Joshua Chinsky, and this has been improving throughout this lap by just a couple of tenths. I mean, and really that's all you need. You just need to gain a couple of tenths a lap here. You know, we're still technically in the middle of a pit cycle because we have Dave Menino who still hasn't made his pit stop. You just gotta just write this out. You gotta write it out, get closer, hit your marks, find that lap time, find that comfortable pace. But for Josh Chinsky, he has the advantage here. And that's where I think he's just been super strong this year, is that he can find that advantage and just abuse it. And right now, that's exactly what is happening for that 18 car, as he is just currently he's not even, it's not a fast pace at all. It's just a nice, comfortable pace around here. His last lap time of 109.14 as Dave Menino puts in a 108.91. So those tires are starting to fade a little bit there as that's his best lap time.
Yeah, hey, if that's his tires fading, I would love to see what he'd be able to do on a set of Flintstones. That's incredible for Menino to be able to get that sort of pace. That's not terribly far off Josh Chinsky's best lap of the race, which is the best lap of the race by far. Look at the pace difference between those two cars. It was about a second between them in terms of pace, and one of these drivers came down pit lane a couple of laps ago. The other has been on the same tires for the past 21 laps, and Dave Menino was quicker of the two on those old tires. Those primaries, Menino has been the tire whisperer up to this point, and I said that he may be able to bring that gap up to 25 seconds. Look where he is right now, 24.6, 24.5, doesn't have to make some major swings to be able to build that gap up, really. If Chinsky misses an apex heading off through some of the very fast turns around this track, has a small trip up, there's a 25-second gap for Menino right off the bat. Now, the gap that we are looking for is closer to 30 based off the pit lane times we've had up to this point, as that's Neil Weston. It's actually coming to the pits yet again. I believe he's had another off-track excursion. Well, let's take a look at it. This is heading his way down the backstretch, off into 12 and 13. The 6 car has not had a good race. This was a moment he had earlier on, and yeah, you can see that same section of the racetrack, loses it on the curb this time, noses it into the tire barrier, and I think Neil Weston decided to call it a day in the number 6 car as a result.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Just going down through the high-speed chicane and just whoops her around. Very easy to do in these cars, especially, you know, the IR18, I should say. It's actually just easy to do in any Indy cars. We saw in the Indy 500 with the hybrid system and how heavy these are. And they're in such a small window in terms of what you can really push. They're already on a knife's edge. And as a driver, you're pushing that, you know, too closer to that edge as far as you can go. And finally, that thing just decided that's enough. Goodbye. And jumped off that knife edge. So he is into the pits, fixing that nose real quick. And that should not be the end of his day. He should be able to get back out there. Didn't look like any suspension damage. So he is still going to be able to participate in this race here. But Dave Menino, he's actually increased the gap now to 25 seconds. Still won't keep him in the lead when he finally does pit, but he's going to be even closer to Stephen Hudek and Joshua Chinsky when he finally does.
When that pit stop comes for Dave Menino, if he can pull that gap, it is going to be a momentous occasion for him. That would be a statement for Menino to be able to come back after the race he had last week at Long Beach, which just frankly was not a good, not a good result for him, and that's part of the reason why he found himself tied with Hudek when it comes to that championship. If Menino can leave this race with another win, it would be his second win of the season. Actually, no, it would be his third win up to this point in the season. I forgot about his triumph at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course about a month ago at this point. He's been quick, though, all throughout this season, and Menino, who can just hang on in this race, get a bit more out of those primary tires, he is going to be very, very happy at the end of it all, Will, the driver of the number 3. And, yeah, I'm going to break the fourth wall here in a couple of moments, folks. I felt like I've been going insane throughout most of this show, because I was hearing the SMB music as we were going about. I forgot the name of the song. I kept hearing that in my ears. Turns out I had something open on my computer that was playing it just faintly. I didn't 100% register and hear it. I could just hear it faintly in the background, which now I know what it's like to be our producer, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, who I remember one time recounting the tale of him listening to music for so many shows that it was basically his daily monologue music.
Well, weren't you just pumping to the music? Did you pump it up? Just start dancing a little bit, Ron?
Maybe I could. Oh, I pulled it up again and turned it up, and I just completely blew out my left eardrum. So I think I may need to go to some sort of ear doctor after this broadcast is said and done. I'll tell you what, the music may be the loudest part of these race cars. As much as I was playing that up, I think I did actually hurt my ear there. So a true mark of a genius for me doing that to myself. Absolutely self-inflicted. That was from me. They've found it out.
Can you hear me?
You got a copy here? Oh, man. My dad's been working on a lot of CB radio stuff as of recent. I've been so tempted to get a CB radio microphone up and rolling for a broadcast just to see how that would sound.
I mean, I should ask. Can you hear me now? Good old reference from some of you who are old enough to remember those commercials, even though they did reappear a couple of years ago, but no longer. But now Dave Menino, he's not really increased the gap. 25.5 seconds to Joshua Chinsky here on lap 25. And those tires, I would say those primary tires are probably really starting to fade out here. We'll see what the lap times are looking like when it comes across the line this time. A 109.2 for Joshua Chinsky. His last lap was a 109.3. So we will have to wait to see what his lap time will be when he crosses the line, and 25 seconds is so long. Joshua Chinsky now finally crossing the line here. He puts up a 109.6. So Joshua Chinsky kind of struggling on those primary tires, but Stephen Hudak put up a 110.3, so he's also struggling. I think anybody who started on the alternate tire is going to have a two-stop here, Ron. As you can see, some of the time starting to drop off a little bit. And now I'm Dave Menino. I'm going, perfect. This is exactly what you want. You want to see guys who are struggling on the primary tires, only just a few laps into this stint. And for Dave Menino, we know how good he is about tire saving, but also being very, very quick, especially when it comes to the alternate tires. He is going to come out and get swinging with those tires and ready to take names and kick some butt as we head to lap 27. 26 seconds to Joshua Chinsky, and now a 10-second gap for Joshua Chinsky. And there's a little gravel on track in that corner. And that's corner 9, so he's that might play a factor in this one as well here, Ron, with a little bit of slippery gravel on a hot track surface.
Yeah, I'm looking through. I think that Stephen Hudak and Josh Chinsky may have had their own respective off-track moments over the past couple of moments here, potentially heading off to that exact same section of the racetrack. From my statistics, it looks like they're a matter of about 15 seconds apart, so there may have been something going on here potentially. Let's see. This would make sense considering the part of the racetrack down to 7, 8, and 9. Oh, that's a big curve back from Hudak. Spins off into the gravel. That is going to be a big and costly mistake for him. He rejoins the race and just brings a crap load of gravel onto the track. A big line of it heading off through there. It looks more like a rally special. Stage runs a little bit wide through 7, hits that inside curb in 8, and indeed, it was like a fairground ride when he hit that and popped up into the air. Dave Menino is coming into the pits as Josh Chinsky had a moment of his own down into 12 and 13. Something was very wrong there. Look at that. I think, oh boy, he kept it out of the barrier. That was all sorts of screwed up. I wonder if his monitor blanked out there. There must have been something really screwy going on there, because that wasn't even close. That's been going on. Dave Menino, yeah, what? Okay, that's...
I can't see!
Yeah, I cannot see. I'm legally blind. If anyone gets that reference from about 13 years ago, you win 1 million jelly beans. But Dave Menino, he's come into the pits, and he's come out with a 9/10 of a second gap in front of his teammates. We're going to follow Menino and his perspective in this cycle. He's now going to be the only runner out there on alternate tires with less than half the race left to go. So Dave Menino, I wouldn't say he's 100% smelling like a bed of roses, but he's certainly smelling like a big, nice, warm pot of potpourri on Christmas morning.
Well, that must have been a quick pit stop for him. Looking here on my monitor, it was 40 seconds pit lane time and an 8.6 second stop. I'm confused. What? The math isn't mathing there, Ron. The math does not check out. How did he stay in front?
Miracles. Could do miracles potentially. I'm not really sure how it all works when it comes to all that, but I gotta say, yeah, as much as it is 40 seconds down in the pits, you do have a shortened run heading through pit entry, and not the worst straight at the end of it all when it comes to losing out some time. So I think those mistakes from Chinsky and Hudak certainly helped him out. That was I was going to say something that I probably shouldn't have said in reference to that moment for Chinsky heading down into 12 and 13. Wasn't going to be a swear word. Going to be breaking out the tinfoil hats in this one, so I'm just going to leave that be. But Benino still in front of Chinsky, and Hudek dropping down like a rock. That's a real tough series of events for the driver, the number 44. A slow stop coupled with a very easy mistake to make, to be sure, heading off through 7, 8, and 9. Now finds himself in a comfortable P3 with that 13 laps left to go in this race. But unless some major stuff goes on and he can reel these drivers in like there's no tomorrow, like he has a magnet on top of his fishing rod, I really don't think that there's a path forward for Hudek to jump into the race. Like, doubly so considering Dave Menino just set a cooker at a 107.6. Holy cow.
He is on a mission. He kept the race lead, and now he can abuse it. That's what I was trying to say. As soon as he gets on those alternate tires, he is gone. And that's exactly what has happened here. Alternate tire. He will probably take him to the end at this point. Let's just be honest. He's going to take him to the end. So just keep an eye on those lap times, and we'll just count off the laps here. Everybody pretty much is going to be separated out here unless he has to do a two-stopper. 22 laps, 23 laps. He should be, he should be fine, Ron. I think just leaving it through here, right? Unless he has a catastrophic failure and pushes him way too hard and just has to get tires again.
Yeah, I think for all these racers, the path forward and into the check forward. Benino setting another cooker, a 107.371. I mean, these drivers, Benino, he's running on race fuel. He's not like there with like a couple of gallons in that race car at most. He's running there with race fuel, with tires that aren't really in the best operating window, and a track temperature that, while slightly cooler than was in qualifying at 112 degrees Fahrenheit, still isn't exactly brisk. He is setting some absolutely fantastic lap times, his best of the race, back-to-back. A 107.3 is nearly a full second quicker than just about every single car out there on the racetrack. In fact, looking through, the second best time was of his teammate Josh Shinsky not terribly long ago when he was in the 108.2s, the high 108.2s. I don't know what Dave Menino has cooking up right now, but whatever it is, I want to have a bite because this is absolutely amazing, and he improves yet again. That's now over a second quicker than Shinsky. Incredible stuff from him.
Well, Menino was on the pole. He fell back, but has regained the lead. That's an incredible drive, especially with the way how much time he did lose at the beginning stint of this one, as Joshua Chinsky and Steven Hudek just drove down the road and drove by him just quickly and smoothly. Just did not have any problem getting by, and here we are. And for Dave Menino, he is definitely in control of this one. This is his race to lose at this point.
It really is for Dave Menino. Ever since that pit cycle, he has grabbed this race and just taken full-on command with it. I'm also going to correct a statement that came out of my mouth not terribly long ago when I said we had about, like I said, we had 13 laps left to go. That was about 10 off. We've got 20 to go now. Make that 19 as Menino licks the stamp and sends it off into turn number 1. It's a 108.0, which is still quicker than anybody else out there on the racetrack, which is saying something considering it was 0.8 of a second slower than his lap beforehand. This is a crushing performance from Dave Menino that we're seeing right now. Hey, talk about the process of trusting the process. Started on those primary hard tires, was dropping down like an anvil pushed out of a helicopter. But now, I mean, he's running in the race lead. He's building that gap to himself and Shinsky, and he's on those alternate tires with about 137 seconds left to go to push the pass. The only driver who has more is Steven Hudek. But I'm not sure we're going to see burn that too much for the simple sake that he is in no man's land at the present moment. I mean, Adam, I hope you don't take too much offense to this, considering you are a upper Midwesterner, but it reminds me very much of driving through Nebraska, what we're seeing right now for Stephen Hudek. He is in no man's land at the moment.
Well, you can make fun of Nebraska, Kansas all you want. I won't care. Those states are terrible to drive in. But you know what is fun to drive at? Barber Motorsports Park. Beautiful track here as we see Charles Hosea making another pit here. I wonder if he's going to stay with those primary tires. Yes, he is. Just get some fuel, a new set of rubbers, and away he goes. Again, you know, he's pretty much out of contention from gaining any spots here. Over a minute down actually is going to be lap traffic at this point. In just a few I would say probably in a lap or two, he'll be saying hello to Dave Menino. Again, a 107 lap time around here. You know, it's what we would see normally actually in IndyCar around here, as well as where we started at the beginning of the season. That was at Portland. I don't know why I thought it was Barber. We're at Barber today. And Ron, this is, you can see Joshua Chinsky. He's just trying to push as hard as he can, but he's not going to get there, obviously, with Dave Menino on alternate tires. Over a second clear every single lap. Nearly that last lap, he was nearly a second faster than Joshua Chinsky. And Joshua Chinsky puts in a 109.31, a 108.4 for Dave Menino. It's going to be an uphill battle at this point for Joshua Chinsky and Stephen Hudek, who I thought had maybe the best strategy. You know, came in with the alternate tires as everybody else did, except Dave Menino. That's the interesting part. Dave Menino started on the primaries, was just played the patient game, and now he's out in front and looking to win here at Barber.
And now here's an interesting case that we've got on camera right now. Charlie Hosea in the 100 car for Rockefeller Racing. Saw him come through the pits not terribly long ago, and I was thinking, okay, was there a moment for Hosea? I was looking through, and no, it looks like he just decided to come into the pits. So, not sure whether he was like, you know what, I cannot make it to the end on gas. I may as well just come in for a quick splash and dash, which, I mean, hey, based on the fact he only has 66 seconds, my apologies, left to go, push the pass. Really, I mean, you get to the point, I mean, this is talked about a lot on IndyCar broadcasts on some road courses, how you may want to burn up some of that push path, but at the same time, it is going to hurt your fuel numbers a great deal. So Hosea, that was a quick little splash and dash for him, I suspect, in the number 66 car, and decided to put some new rubber on that race car too, spending 91 seconds down in his pit stall, 40.6 seconds down pit lane in its entirety. I was going to actually load up this replay to see this pit stop from Charles Hosea. And as we see this replay, Adam, I may have to send you this after we're said and done from this broadcast. Hits this marks perfectly in the 100 car. Decides to stay on primaries, which is an interesting call for me. I mean, even if he puts rockets on that car, I don't think he'd be able to catch up to any of the jump a little bit farther up the road, considering how much a pit stop sets you back. But I'll just send you this clip. It was from, I think it was an Indy 500 broadcast in the 80s when they had the broadcast crew decide to do a pit stop. So they had Sam Posey decide to change some tires. I think Chris Economaki was doing it, just going way back in the time machine in terms of IndyCar broadcasts on ABC at the time. Just had all the crew there trying to do a pit stop on an IndyCar. That's something we need to bring back, I feel. It would be interesting to see Will Buxton try and change the tires of an IndyCar in anger.
I mean, or be careful, especially depending on the driver. You could end up with Robert Schwartzman in a broken leg in that case. So
that too.
It's that's how I see that going in today's IndyCar. Definitely, really hope that crew guy was okay. I didn't hear a report after, but those crew guys, they got smacked at the Indy 500, didn't they?
Yeah, and I gotta say, that was one of the most bizarre Indy 500s I've ever seen. I think, in terms of bizarre 500s I've seen in time watching Indy 500s, which in my brutal honesty, doesn't stretch back too terribly long. I mean, I want to get that some sort of excuse, but 22 was sliding Chinsky heading off these turns 2 and 3. But ever since I watched my first Indy 500 back in 2015, this year's race was probably the most bizarre I've seen in my entire time watching the Indy 500. It was strange, even through to the checkered flag, and I gotta say, I am very thankful for a big lockup there from Chinsky down to the downhill hairpin. Turn 5, very hard braking zone to try and nail down these race cars for sure. But even down to the fact that, and spoiler alert, it's been a couple of days. If anyone hasn't watched the Indy 500, then on you. But I gotta say, I'm grateful for the Ray Hall Lerman Landigan cars of Devil and D. Francesco and Louis Foster holding up the other drivers at the front, so we did see a battle between Ericsson and Alex Below for the win of the Indy 500, because after the Team Penske disaster class that happened in the week leading up to that, if we had an Indy 500 winner get bopped in post-race technical inspection, nothing would drag me off of motorsports Twitter quicker.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you. It was very chaotic. Pace lap crash with Scott McLaughlin, and then Mario Andretti with the Andretti curse. That poor man. He needs to stop. Maybe that will break the curse. And then of course Kyle Larson, the storylines coming into the Indy 500 with him attempting the double for a second time, and unfortunately his day ended early for him. Just a rookie mistake, I would say, in an Indy car, shifting back down to third and losing the rear of the car and destroying the car pretty much. And that brings me back to my point about the current IndyCar state of today. You have that hybrid system in the car, and it adds so much weight. And I liked how Pato O'Ward described the car. You looked at last year's car in the previous generation of car, or whatever we're calling it now. It was already a small window to get those cars set up in an optimal window. Now you added the hybrid system, and that window got even tighter. So you were either right on the edge, over the edge, or behind it. And that's kind of what we saw throughout the month of May with the Indy 500s, that there was a lot of teams who were just absolutely spot on right on the edge between really good and really bad. Or you would have teams that were just over the edge, and that's why I think the reason why we saw so many crashes in the month of May. I think these hybrid systems really hurt the car a little bit there, and to be honest, I don't even think the drivers enjoy the hybrid unit at all.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a case to be made that the hybrid units are. I mean, here's the thing when it comes to modern Indy cars, and we'll get back to the race because we have Caleb Lehman heading through pit lane right now. I think Josh Chinsky may have had a trip through the pits himself as well, so I think these drivers may have to be a little bit worried about fuel. So who knows? We may see Dave Menino come into the pits. I doubt it, but I think it happened between now and the checkered flag. But there's Lehman on pit exit. I'll get back to the point I was going to raise as Stephen Hudak actually making that call to come pit into the pits as well. I think these drivers are saying, you know what, these primaries are just so slow and sloppy. Let's just put on the alternates and try and run through to the checkered flag. Dave Menino, I feel like he just has that ability to be able to make it to the checkered flag. I think these drivers on primaries were running less on primaries than they were on the alternates. They were able to stretch more out of the red sidewall tires than just about anybody else. I think that's part of the reason why we are seeing these drivers come into pit lane as Hudak is out and away in P3, going to be exiting out with about 8 seconds being the gap between himself and Chinsky still. But the point that I was going to raise talking about this IndyCar, I consider myself to be somewhat qualified when it comes to talking about IndyCar, because that's basically what I did for a living before I got into this broadcasting stuff. This car has had so many different changes and alterations made to it. You had the 2012 to 2014 cars that had the first ever iteration of the Universal Aero kits, because the manufacturer-specific body kits weren't available yet. Then you had the manufacturer kits for Honda and Chevy from 2015 up until 2017. Then they came out with this version of the IndyCar, the IR18, which is still using that base DW12 chassis. God rest Dan Weldon-Saul that they introduced at the start of the 2012 season. Just with the, I think the correct technical term is the UAK18, the Universal Aero kits. that they've got in these race cars now, which, granted, I think they look absolutely incredible, but, you know, it produced a different style of racing than those old Aero Kit cars. Then we had that up until 2020 when they brought in the Aero screen, and now we've entered a brand new era of IndyCar racing about a year ago at this point when they brought in the hybrid at Mid-Ohio last summer. And yeah, I can't really say too much usually when it comes to broadcasting. I'm gonna hold off on that point. It's Dave Menino coming into the pits from the race lead in the number 3 car. These drivers all deciding that now is the time to come into the pits, have good rubber right towards the end of this race. It's a 10-lap dash to the end. Be good on fuel, be good on rubber, just be able to push it right to the end. Menino certainly pushes push to pass a lot. Went from 200 seconds flat to 137. So could be part of the reason why we are seeing these drivers come down pit lane trying to make sure they can make it all the way to the end of this race. As Menino going to be up and away 8.1 seconds, same time in the pit stall as Josh Shinsky, and he will exit out with a rather comfortable lead. Waiting for that to update. That or the racing gods are just screwing with me. Okay, yeah, there we go. We're getting back into good territory. I was about to say, if Menino was able to do that pit stop and still exit with a 30-second lead, I'm pretty sure we'd probably be able to give him the championship leaving this race.
Well, here we go. Final laps of Barber. You can just see Dave Menino. He knows he's got this in the bag. He just cannot make a mistake. There's Joshua Chinsky on your screen. You can't even see his rival teammate down the road, and that's going to be absolutely heartbreaking for Joshua Chinsky, and it's going to probably allow him to go back to the drawing board a little bit and go, what did I do wrong to lose this race? Because that first stint, I think you and I will both agree that Joshua Chinsky, he probably was going to win this thing just based on the fact that he was able to get out in front of Dave Menino, but somehow Dave Menino just gets out in front and then just takes off from the race lead.
Yeah, ever since we saw that first series of pit stops, Dave Menino, I mean, we're thinking like, okay, yeah, he's probably playing the long run, started this race on the primary tires, was the only driver to start this race on primaries, and then from that, that car took off in the 3, got into a good comfort zone, got into a good swing of things. You talked about it a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, Adam, kind of talking about what it means to do well around this race. You got to get into a good swing of things. If you are feeling uncomfortable and just like a little bit anti, for lack of a better term, running around this racetrack, you're not going to get a good result out of it at the end of the day. It's an odd comparison to make, but I think all 3 of us on this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight can really relate to that. Stephen Hudak with a pretty big lockup trying to avoid that lap car of Charlie Hosea that came out of turn number 9. But a race here at Barber, and a race here in the IndyCars period, it's like doing a broadcast in an odd sense. If you get into a good groove of things, you're going to have a good time. But if it feels clunky, you're not going to be feeling too good. Even if it doesn't come across that way on the air, there's been plenty of times at which I've done a broadcast being like, oh man, that felt about as smooth as 80 grit sandpaper. And then everyone's like, oh, that was fine. That was a fantastic show. So there's an odd comparison and some odd similarities to be drawn between doing an IndyCar race and doing a broadcast. If you get into a good groove at the start, you're going to be golden. But if not, then you're going to have to start to be a bit worrisome.
So we'll go ahead here as we got a moment here before the end of this race. Show you the green flag start here, and you can see Dave Menino gets off to a great start on those primary tires down into turn 1, but he's got some company on the red alternate tires behind. And you can just see they're just getting closer and closer, or not going anywhere anytime soon. And Josh Chinsky gets the inside move on Dave Menino. Dave Menino, I think, had a little bit of a scary moment there. Thought Joshua Chinsky was a lot more alongside than he actually was. And that allowed Josh Chinsky to get through. And now Dave Menino and Stephen Hudak. And Stephen Hudak just gets a great launch on the exit of the same corner that Joshua Chinsky was able to pass on and go away. You can just see it was a little bit of a dive, but a better exit there And then, of course, Neil Weston losing it down into the museum corner and just slides there. Doesn't damage the wing, but he did have an incident also later where he did crash into the wall and lose his entire nose. And we'll actually bring that up now. You can see Neil Weston going through the high-speed chicane, and the rear of the car just says, nope, not today, Neil, and slams that IR18 into the safer barrier on the outside wall.
And Neil Weston is your only retirement up to this point in the race, as Dave Menino, not only did he double down on his fast lap race, he's now tripled down on his fast lap race, a 106.9 from Dave Menino. And for context, folks, his time in qualifying to grab the pole position for this race was a 106.687. So the fact that Dave Menino is only about 0.3 of a second off of his qualifying pole time, insanity, pure unbridled insanity. That lap time from him would have slotted him P3 on the starting grid. So, I mean, Dave Menino, to be able to bring the pace like that into from the qualifying session into the race, it's absolutely fantastic stuff that we're seeing from Menino. There's no other way to describe it. No ifs, ands, or buts that Dave Menino is a quick driver. Stephen Hudak, though, he's going to be leaving this race with a rather bitter taste in his mouth. We're thinking about, okay, if Dave Menino really struggles, Stephen Hudak needs to pounce. What we're seeing is a complete opposite of that. I can't even say that Stephen Hudak has struggled. He has had podium speed from the drop of the green flag all the way through to the fall of the checkered, and even had some race leading speed at a very early stage of this race too. But Dave Menino, he's just been in a different league. Josh Chinsky's been quick as well. Stephen Hudak running in third. It may not seem like a lot, but when it comes to a series like this, where after the first half we are tied on points, it's basically got to be a 4-race, 2-driver showdown to the end to decide who wins it all here in Season 1 of the Xtreme Scoring INDYCAR Championship Series here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But for Stephen Hudak, this sort of race is going to be a huge disappointment for him. So I think he'll be happy to see the back end of Barber in about 15 minutes' time when we grab the checkered flag.
It's going to be cool. Won't be 15 minutes time. We only got 5 laps to go here. As Dave Menino now just in cruise control. That's all he's got to be, all the way to the checkered flag. And right now we're down to 4 laps to go. Lap 49 of 52. And Dave Menino, 14-second lead over his rival teammate of Joshua Chinsky, of course, Stephen Hudak as well. His championship rival having a rough day here at Barber. What could have been a very good day ends up turning into a rough day very quickly, as he is currently 5 seconds down to Joshua Chinsky. And for Menino, he is just driving away here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Dave Menino in the 3 car. This is a champion's drive from him as it stands presently as well. And if he is able to seal the deal with this race, win it from the pole, and also set the fastest lap of the race in the process, that will be a very good feat from Menino, the driver of the number 3 car. The SRT Esports driver hasn't really put a foot wrong up to this point. And if he is able to get that done, it would just be the second time that anyone has done that up to this point in the year. Only other person who's done it, himself in run number 1 at Cork. Dave Menino has had this field's number up to this point. If he can hang on for just a couple more laps, it'll be his 3rd win of the season after grabbing his 3rd pole of the season. It'll also be the 3rd time this season that he's grabbed the fastest lap of the race in the race itself. So Menino looking to have a good showing here in the 3 car to grab win number 3 after grabbing pole number 3 and fastest lap of the race number 3. With 3 to go.
3 laps to go. And Barber Motorsport Park has once again delivered. Fun fact here, Ron, for you. One of my relatives is a big motorcycle guy. He had an old Yamaha trial bike that he restored himself. And this is a man who lives in Laramie, Wyoming, where the University of Wyoming is. That bike that he fully restored, he donated to the museum here at Barber Motorsports Park. And when I was there last year, it was on display. I do have a picture of it. And that's one of the very unique features about this track is that it's got an amazing motorsports museum. If you're into motorsports, motorcycles, open wheel cars, GT cars, they got everything in there. It's 5 full floors of just old race cars, and it's and when you first get there, you see an old GT car from IMSA, actually back when it was the American Le Mans Series. So awesome. It's a great place to visit, and highly recommend if you ever go down to Birmingham, either for NASCAR at Talladega or to Barber. I highly recommend going to the museum, checking out everything that is there. You'll be there for hours. You will not want to leave. You will want to just live there, honestly. And I about found a corner to set up a cot. White flag lap here on one more time around for Dave Menino.
And Menino looking to complete a perfect night of racing action here at Barber Motorsports Park down into turn number 5. Saw him with a pretty big block up there in the early stages, tripped up a bit and lost out on some spots, but to say he's rebounded is an absolute understatement. He has about 29 seconds left to go. Frankly, he could have not even touched that bump throughout this race, and he'd probably be spun like a rose still. He has been on the rails in that 3 car. We'll have to ask him about how his thoughts are coming into the final 3 races. If he's feeling bad about the ovals, then we've got a championship fight on our hands. If not, though, Dave Menino may already have one hand on that championship trophy as he heads his way through the final few turns right now, through turn number 15 into turn 16, the final lap around this racetrack on lap 52 of 52. And after an hour of racing action, Dave Menino is going to be on top. He gets a pole, the win, and the fast lap of the race in the process. Dave Menino grabs a checkered flag to win it here at Barber. It's going to be Josh Shinsky about 15.5 seconds later finishing this race in P2. And I'll have to wait a couple more moments from there to find Stephen Hudek finishing this race in 3rd. It's an SOT Esports 1-2, and Hudek probably disappointed with how things have gone for him. The Canadian not very happy after how things have shaken out for him in this race. Gonna have to wait quite a long time before we see the likes of Caleb Lehman and Charlie Jose, the final cars to cross the checkered flag to finish this race. They're going to be finishing in 4th and 5th respectively. But man, Dave Menino, Adam, he didn't put a foot wrong and still had 13 seconds, lucky number 13 seconds of push to pass left to go at the end of it too.
Yeah, 13 seconds. Joshua Chinsky had 5. Stephen Hudek had 20 left. And Lehman and Charles Hosea probably just doing a little bit of limit testing with the push to pass, and they finished with 0. Here's Caleb Lehman now, who I thought would have had maybe a better day out here considering his performance. And Portland has just not found the form on road courses in the last couple of them. So, but in Charles Hosea coming across the line here, and there's our race winner, Dave Menino, our championship leader.
And Dave Menino for the 3rd time this season and the 2nd week in a row. Actually, not the 2nd week in a row is your winner. The 2nd week in a row is your pole sitter. But for the first time since round number 2 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, Menino will return to victory lane. I'm sure he's going to be quite happy with his performance, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to have a chat with him here in the not too far off future. For now, though, we're going to get the results loaded up at the end of this race here at Barber tonight and grabbing the checkered flag after starting from the pole. And despite dropping down, he was able to bounce back. Dave Menino is your race winner, 15.8 seconds in front of Josh Shinsky in P2. Stephen Hudek, the Canadian, rounds out your podium in 3rd. Caleb Lehman, the last of the cars to finish this race on the lead lap, with Charlie Hosea finishing this race in 5th, the last car to grab the checkered flag period. Neil Weston, after having that moment coming out of turn number 13, looping it on corner exits, and hitting the outside wall is going to be classed down in P6, the last of the drivers to be classed at the end of this race here at Barber tonight. So that does it for the results, but it looks like we have some drivers excited to have a chat with us there in the interview waiting area. So Adam, upon your return to the series after skipping out last time out at Long Beach for the move, again, congratulations on getting that house. I will let you do the dibs of we'll start from the back. I think we'll start with our P3 finisher of Stephen Hudek and make our way up to the front. Sound good?
Yeah, that works.
Oh.
All right, joining us here in the broadcast booth after this long race is Stephen Hudek. Stephen, a great start to this, getting up to P2 and battling for the race lead, just unfortunately came up short tonight, finishing in the 3rd spot.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I had a really good race on that first stint. Unfortunately, the second stint, pretty much almost everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Messy pit stop. I had to replace the front wing, just clip the barrier on pit entry to that first stop, and then hit the curb wrong on the, I forget what the actual corner is being called, but I call it the squiggly hairpin, down at the far end of the track, and kind of looped it off the curb there. So I figure I lost about 10 seconds to Josh there, but the third stint was amazing. It's just unfortunately that second stint kind of ruined my race.
Well, it was definitely a challenging race. Of course, you're still in the hunt for the championship. Talk about how you're feeling here in the next, as we go down the final stretch here at XMS ICS.
It's actually funny because right before the race, I was like, oh, I wonder if they updated the point standings. And then I had a look, and I was tied with Dave for the lead, and I was kind of shocked. No, going into the next 3 races, 2 of them being ovals, anything can happen. I feel quite good around Daytona over Barber. And then the 2 ovals, I'm still relatively new to the ovals, so we'll see how those go. But I'm fairly confident.
All right, and who would you like to thank for getting you this podium finish tonight?
First, I'd like to thank my wife for keeping me sane this past week, because it was a real struggle practicing for this, new track to me and everything. And of course, you guys are awesome putting this broadcast together, and big, huge thank you to XMS for putting on a good race.
Well, congratulations on a P3 finish, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, guys. Very good.
And that right there is Stephen Hudek, our P3 finisher at the end of this race. As that's been going on, I've been able to have a chance to have a chat with the series admin and P2 finisher at the end of this race, Joshua Chinsky, joining us in the commentary booth. First, Josh, welcome back to the series after taking last week off. And what a way to return P2 finish and SRT Esports 1-2 with you and your teammate Dave Menino. Happy to talk us through this race that we just saw at Barber tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, it's glad to be back here. Unfortunately had to miss last week due to a family emergency, which is really unfortunate because I absolutely love Long Beach. That would have been a fantastic track. It was good to get the comeback strong. A little disappointed in the turnout as an admin speaking. As a driver, I'll take all the free points I can get. As an admin, it was a little bit of a struggle, but hopefully it wasn't too boring. I know me and Steven hopefully provided a little bit of entertainment in the first stint of our tires. But overall, yeah, really pleased. I'm not a big Barber fan. It's really technical, especially in the braking. And I'm still trying to figure out the braking zones. So it was a workout for me the whole race long.
And it brought up a very good point talking about the nature of this track. Super technical, really unforgiving. They've only got 2 long flat-out blasts where you don't have to worry about much, that being the run between turn 11 and turn 12 and that start-finish straightaway. Outside of that, always turning, always worrying about something. It's a track that could just wear you down after running a race that's over an hour long like these usually are. So I want to ask you about the challenges of just staying in the groove running around here.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly, you know that the real racers talk about how that literally they'll almost zone out in the car, and that's where they're the fastest. That's about how you got to be here at Barber. And if you're worrying about every corner, every brake zone, your brain has no chance to rest around this circuit. So the more tired you get, the longer the race seems, and you're like, oh, when's it going to end? I mean, I had one lapse in concentration, and it nearly put me in the wall. So that's Barber for you. It's a workout both physically and mentally, and it'll bite you if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think the best way that you can describe that there, I've definitely felt that in the sim in terms of getting the best lap times, just kind of zoning out and not really thinking too much, not overthinking it around this track. Don't overthink it, stupid, I think is probably what they should have as the branding here at Barber Motorsports Park in terms of getting a good lap time here. But Josh, still a pretty fun night of broadcasting here, talking about some history with this absolutely fantastic facility, and looking forward to next time out at unfortunately a track that has sadly gone the way of the Dodo Bird, Auto Club Speedway. Yep. Gonna be running on the 2-mile oval, and my oh my, based off the last time IndyCar ran there back in 2015, albeit with some different cars, I think we're in for a good one next week. What do you think?
Hey, yeah, it is going to be a lot of fun. Auto Club Speedway and the IndyCar and this updated car is just so much fun. I ran it in the league last year. It's really great racing. You can have a lot of side-by-side action, but it's also about taking care of your tires, because that turn 3 and 4 late stint, it likes to bite you if you're not careful. But I'm looking forward to getting back on the ovals, and I highly doubt I'm going to be able to catch Dave. Steven may be out there, but he's pretty good on the ovals. But Dave's still kind of new to the oval racing, so I'm kind of hoping that Steven and I can put a little bit of a dent in that score as we come up for the next 2 ovals here in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and hey, if there's a time to pounce on a championship rival who's not very confident on the ovals, it's definitely right at the end, with 2 of the next 3 races going to be on those ovals, and 2 very challenging ones at that. So looking forward to seeing how things are going to shake out there in 1 week's time. But Josh, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. And before we let you go and celebrate this runner-up result, is there anybody you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Absolutely. I want to thank my parents, my mom and dad, for watching and always supporting me in my sim racing endeavors. Shout out to SMB. We appreciate you guys broadcasting. I know tonight was probably a little bit difficult, but we appreciate you guys nonetheless. Shout out to SRT. You guys are always pushing me to be better, especially Dave around these freaking road courses. He's an alien, and he's always trying to push me to the limits and find where they are and then break past them. And lastly, shout out to XMS for allowing us to try and host this INDYCAR Series. Still got a couple races left to go, but it's been a fun series for us so far as drivers, and fingers crossed with the announcements that they made about the updates coming for the INDYCAR that we can get some rejuvenated drivers that are going to sign back up for Season 2.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how the Indy cars are going to run in the rain. These cars are usually pretty challenging. Throw rain in the forecast there as well. Man, I would hit the wall lickety-split. But Josh, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth, and well done the P2. Always good to have
awesome.
you, man.
Thank you, guys.
And that right there was our P2 finisher at the end of this race, Mr. Joshua Chinsky. And Adam, I will let you have a chat for the second time tonight with our race winner now, not just our pole sitter, Mr. Dave Menino.
Dave Menino here in the broadcast booth, our race winner, pole sitter, and fastest lap time. Dave, you started off that race a little behind the 8 ball with everybody on the alternate tire behind you, but somehow, in some magical way, you get out in front.
Yeah, it was by purpose. I figured if I was going to run 2 red tire stints, I'd rather it be on a half a fuel tank as opposed to a full fuel tank, just for the pace of it. So, yeah, luckily it worked out. Unfortunate that Josh and Steven had a couple mishaps, because I think we could have had some good on-track battles.
Well, it's another race win. You are in control of the championship here, but we do have a couple of ovals coming up here down the final stretch. Of course, Auto Club being one of those, and Gateway. Talk about, you mentioned earlier you weren't all that comfortable on the ovals, but we're heading to Auto Club, which is probably the most uncomfortable track for the IndyCar.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I have to buy that track, so that tells you how much experience I have on it. But yeah, last season I kind of got a bit better at ovals, but I still have a long ways to go. And thankfully, I've got Josh on my team who's amazing at ovals and is great at teaching you how to, use weight tracker and all that. So I'll definitely be leaning on him for some tips and tricks.
Well, it's definitely going to be a fun pack race come Auto Club, and then we head to a short track of Gateway. Of course, got to use that brake a little bit on an oval, which is weird to say that you have to use a bit of braking on an oval track. And are you expecting much there? Of course, again, not very comfortable, but you still have a challenger in the title fight coming down the final 3 races here.
Yeah, for sure. It's certainly not over. So I need to. I would think that last course, having to use the brake, it would kind of operate a little bit more like a road course in a sense. So I think I should be a little bit more comfortable there. But yeah, it's for sure damage limitation on the ovals and trying to pounce on those road courses.
Well, who would you like to thank for getting you to victory lane here tonight?
Yeah, we'd like to thank the guys at XMS for setting this up. Josh for doing all the heavy work, and I'd like to thank you guys at Slow Motion Broadcasting for the good broadcast. It's always fun to watch these back. And lastly, just thanks to SRT Esport. Great team, good group of guys.
Well, congratulations, Dave Menino. You are our race winner and our current championship leader. We'll see you next week.
Yep, thanks, guys.
And that right there was Dave Menino, for the 3rd time this season in the number 3 car, grabbing the checkered flag at the end of it all here at Barber. I mean, as much as he may feel a little bit uneasy about those ovals that we have coming up, it must feel a little bit good for him, the fact he has a good cushion in the championship.
Well, it really does, but of course, the ovals can be the equalizer. We're going to go Auto Club, a very challenging oval, very fast, and a lot of pack racing. So we'll have to buckle up for that one, because I'm not expecting a clean race by any means. If you've raced it on iRace in the IndyCar officials, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is a very sketchy, dangerous track. Of course, there's a reason why IndyCar stopped going there, because it's too fast. Also, it's multiple lanes. You have up to 5 lanes of racing happening around Auto Club. So that is definitely one to keep an eye out on here in the coming weeks. Of course, when we go to Gateway, that's a little bit of a different race, because it is a short track. It is short track racing, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult, especially if you're good on ovals, but you're not used to quite to the braking and having to brake into the corners and getting down to the apex a little bit quicker, and just doing that lap after lap after lap after lap. And it's also an egg-shaped track, so turns 1 and 2 is different than 3 and 4, and we have a couple of great oval tracks on the schedule lined up here, and then of course ending with the Daytona Road Course. That's also going to be a great race as well.
Yeah, lots of good races to look forward to here for the rest of this season. Lots of good stuff to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, period. On Wednesday nights, you can catch the action from the last round of the Sim Racers Group Intermediate F4 Championship this upcoming week. They're going to be running at Suzuka on the West configuration, and you can catch that action at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. On Thursdays, obviously, you can catch the remaining action from this XMS INDYCAR Championship Series season here for Season 1 of this brand new league. 3 more rounds left to go, and so a lot of loose ends to be tied up. Come time for the weekends, though, we've got you covered with the Formula V Weekend Warriors on Saturdays at 3:20 p.m. Eastern Time, followed the day after by the Formula Fords at 1:45 and the Spec Racer Fords at 3:45. The Weekend Warriors have got some very good races to look forward to here this week. The Formula Vs are going to be running at Lime Rock, which is always a barn burner of a race. The Formula Fords are going to be making their appearance at Thruxton, and the Spec Racer Fords are going to be running at Silverstone. Our producer, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, our boss man here at SMB, was talking about what his thoughts were heading into that spec race or Ford race, and the fact that it feels like more of an oval than anything is absolutely terrifying. But hey, it'll set all of us up well for that XSLR race this upcoming Sunday night at Daytona for the 87 Cup cars. As much as my mind's on this INDYCAR Championship Series race coming up there on the road course in 2 weeks' time, XSLR right towards the end of this this season for them, so that's gonna be a good one. Adam, what are your previews heading into that one?
Well, that one definitely going to be very interesting. Adam Thomsen and Jake Ham in a championship fight, and it's going to come down to these final two races in series number 3 before we head to the GT3 car starting June 22nd. And Jake Ham right now has just been spot on with this car and has been just out in front and making sure he's staying in front of his championship rival, who's Adam Thomsen, who is the championship leader here. So Daytona is going to be very interesting. Talladega last week, a really good race overall. Had a very tight finish, and of course Jake Ham being the one who got the job done. So join us on Sunday nights here on Slow Motion Broadcasting.
And hopefully all of you hearing all the action to look forward to here on SMB, that must have convinced you to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But as for this broadcast tonight, for round number 5 of the Extreme Scoring INDYCAR Championship Series here on SMB, I think that'll just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Adam Thomsen joining me in the commentary booth, and Mr. Joshua Wilkie working all the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching this broadcast on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.